It is now 2:10 here on the BBC Sport website. The cars pull away on their formation lap now, and this is the Hungarian Grand Prix. Here's the grid. Lewis Hamilton on pole position, Valtteri Bottas alongside him on the Mercedes. Then it's the two racing points in third and fourth. Lance Stroll ahead of Sergio Perez. Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc fifth and sixth for Ferrari. Max Verstappen seventh in the Red Bull despite crashing on his way to the grid. The team have got the car ready and he is getting ready to go. The two McLarens of Norris and Sainz in eighth and ninth. Gasly is 10th in the AlphaTauri. Daniel Ricciardo 11th. Russell, Albon, Ocon and Latifi the top 15. Magnussen, Kvyat, Grosjean, Giovinazzi and Raikkonen the top 20. Why, Jolyon, would Kevin Magnussen be on the full wets? It's almost slicks. It feels like 5 laps it'll be slicks.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea why Magnussen's on the full wets. It's dried up in the half an hour they've been on the grid as well. There are dry patches emerging. I haven't a Scooby why he's on those wet tyres, but maybe Haas or Magnussen knows something I don't. Surprising choice, but let's see. He's got nothing to lose, or very little to lose. Down in 16th place. If he can gain a few places off the start, keep himself out of trouble, I imagine he will be the first to pit for those slick tyres. He's normally brave on that choice anyway.
Rachel T is having an ice cream watching this race, using the hashtag BBCF1, so thanks for that. We're going to do the start of the race on 5 Live. They're just coming around the left-hander into the final corner. And we're about to get going with the start of the Grand Prix around turn 14. And thank you, Ali. The cars are coming around onto the grid now to start this race. It is damp conditions. It's not exactly pouring down. There's no real rain coming down, but it's damp enough to need wet weather tyres for the start of this Grand Prix. Hamilton is on pole position. Valtteri Bottas is second on the grid in the other Mercedes. Then it is the two racing points of Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez. The two Haas cars have decided to come into the pits at the end of the formation lap, so they're not going to start the grid on the race on the grid, which is a very, very strange situation. This is Lewis Hamilton.
Sound like it's going to stall.
Hamilton worried that his engine's going to stall, but the race is about to get underway. 71 laps of action around the Hungaroring. The full race will be over on the BBC Sport website and app. Hamilton on pole, Bottas alongside him as the race gets underway. It's a pretty good start from Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Bottas has not got away well. Hamilton leads. Lance Stroll is now into second place, and then the Ferraris are third and fourth. Bottas is already back down to 6th or 7th position. Hamilton, it is out in front as they come through the hairpin right-hander. Stroll is second, and Max Verstappen, who crashed on his way to the grid before the race has even started, is now trying to get through into third place, and he's done it. Past Sebastian Vettel. So it is Hamilton leading. Second place for Lance Stroll in the racing point. Third is Verstappen. Fourth is Vettel. Fifth is Leclerc. And down to sixth is Hamilton's title rival, the man leading the championship, Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes. A dramatic start here. Back to you, Ali. Wow, what a terrible start for Bottas, Jolyon.
Terrible start for Bottas, really bad start for Perez as well. So the inside of the grid just didn't get away. Second and fourth, that is. Leclerc jumped past them immediately, starting from 6th. He is now 5th place, ahead of both Bottas and Perez. But Bottas 6th place from the front row of the grid. That's a nightmare. Hamilton leading, and the two title rivals surely separated by 5 cars, and Hamilton already checking out front from Stroll, and Max Verstappen up into 3rd place. What a job from the Red Bull mechanics, and a good start from the Dutchman.
So the order is Hamilton, Stroll, Verstappen, Vettel, Leclerc, the top 5. Bottas, Perez, Ricciardo, Sainz, Latifi, the top 10. Albon, Kvyat, Gasly, Norris, Raikkonen, the top 15. Russell, Ocon, Giovinazzi, Magnussen and Grosjean, the 20. I've no idea what. Am I missing something here with Haas? Because they've gone through the pits, but come out on the same compounded tyre.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Is there a penalty that I'm not aware of or something? I don't know. Lap 2 of 70, as they come down into turn 1, it's getting pretty dry out there in places already. They are coming to take a bit of the water that is standing there. Russell is having a little look up the inside of Esteban Ocon. Those two are side by side over 15th place. Daniel Kvyat is now in the pits for AlphaTauri. Jenny, do you have news on Haas?
Well, it looks like they've made a mistake at the beginning of the race. They've gone out on full wets. I don't know if they were labelled incorrectly or what's happened, but they both had to come into the pit lane to supposedly change tyres. Now they were going to change off of those full wets.
Bottas jumped the start. Bottas jumped the start. He definitely moved before the lights went out. Then he stopped again, and then he went again. And that is why he fell quite so far down in the run down to turn 1. The stewards are going to need a really close look at that. It's a bit Sebastian Vettel Suzuka last year.
Yeah.
He jumped, he stopped, and then he went. But was he moving when the lights went out? Here we go on board.
Oh, that's a jump start, isn't it?
Looks it.
Well, Bottas then, bad news for him. Haas didn't change tyres in the pits, Jenny. They came in and just seemed to go straight through the pit lane. So I can only assume there's a penalty somewhere that I'm unaware of, that they had to do a pit lane start or something. That's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise it's just baffling. Hamilton leading, Stroll in second, but not for long, because Max Verstappen is right behind him on the run down to turn 1. The Red Bull in the slipstream, pulls out, not quite able to get the job done on the racing point just yet into the first corner. Now, Kvyat came in and put on dry tyres, and that is exactly what Charles Leclerc is doing, and Valtteri Bottas. Now, Bottas has gone for mediums, Leclerc has gone for softs. Oh, this feels very early to be going for these slicks.
Very early. Kvyat is not as quick as everyone else through the middle sector, but he's not off the road, and the warm-up will be critical. Those that pit earlier will find that their tyres are up to temperature sooner than everyone that pits later, and then get an advantage from that. Hamilton out front is 6 seconds in front of Lance Stroll in just 2.5 laps. 6 seconds in 2.5 laps is huge. But let's keep an eye now on Bottas and Leclerc.
And what's Latifi doing as well? He's up in 8th place in the Williams. So a brilliant start from the Canadian. He's got ahead of Alex Albon. Pierre Gasly completes the top 10. Norris lost a lot of ground at the start. Albon's just got past Latifi. Norris down to 12th position. Raikkonen 13th, 14th Russell, 15th Giovinazzi. Magnussen and Grosjean, the top 17, all on wet tyres. And let's see what the pace is for the Ferrari of Leclerc.
Keep an eye on his second times. I'm sure everyone else will be doing the same. Stroll pits out of second place. Verstappen continues, so Stroll has jumped, and Hamilton's jumped as well from the lead.
Okay, into the pits comes Lewis Hamilton then. It's a set of medium compound tyres for the Mercedes. Away he goes. And then into the pits following him comes Sebastian Vettel as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here, because although Hamilton had a 6-second lead, if Leclerc's pace is good, he could close in on that and have hotter tyres when he gets to the back of Hamilton. But equally, Hamilton was so quick, he might be miles away in the distance. Everybody diving in now. I just wonder if Haas came in to go on to slicks at the end of the formation lap and then decided they didn't want to and then didn't. I don't know. Verstappen then is in the lead of the race. He hasn't pitted. Vettel emerges on a set of wet tyres, lights them up as he rejoins the race circuit. But where has Hamilton come out with regards to Leclerc? He's a long way ahead of Leclerc, I think, Lewis Hamilton, having made his pit stop. There's Norris, Russell, Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Stroll all in there. There's a yellow flag out in sector 1, so someone's gone straight on down at turn 1, I would have thought. Try and figure out who that is in a couple of moments. Very busy here on lap 4 of 70, but it's Verstappen leading. He has yet to pit. Ricciardo is second in the Renault, yet to pit. Ocon third in the Renault, yet to pit. Hamilton fourth is the first of our stoppers. Norris, Russell, Magnussen, Giovinazzi all yet to pit, and it's Nicholas Latifi that has had a spin down at turn 1. That was the reason for the yellow flag. A shame for him as he started very well. We're just getting a replay of Sebastian Vettel's pit stop. He lost quite a lot of time. He lost a huge amount of time waiting for the pit lane to be clear there.
Yeah, he lost a lot. His teammate Lance Stroll is all over the back of Leclerc is all over the back of Lance Stroll. Latifi did he get a hit from someone? He's got a puncture on the left rear, so that's a problem for Latifi. Verstappen's in. I think he might have lost out here by going an extra lap. Those that pitted early were looking good. Leclerc was all over the back of Stroll on the soft tyre, but he hasn't made it through yet.
Here comes Verstappen, and he is ahead of Stroll and Bottas and Leclerc fairly comfortably. Grosjean is now up into fourth
He's on
place.
medium tyres.
Yeah.
They did switch.
Yeah.
That's what happened there.
Okay, so it must have been slow on our updating there, Jenny.
Absolutely. I've just spoken to the team. They did come in. They switched on to the mediums. We had that information, but unfortunately the computer said no. So, yeah, they switched on to the medium tyres very early.
Okay, so Magnussen and Grosjean third and fourth at the moment for Haas, which is a very impressive decision from them. Hamilton leads then. Verstappen second, 6 seconds back. Magnussen is third. Grosjean is fourth. Stroll is fifth. Leclerc is sixth. Bottas is seventh. Perez is eighth. Vettel is ninth. Albon is 10th. Ricciardo, Sainz, Kvyat, Gasly and Raikkonen are the top 15. Ocon, Russell, Norris, Giovinazzi and Latifi are the top 20. And Latifi is still limping back around with his left rear puncture as Lewis Hamilton goes past him 7 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. This is going to be a tough afternoon for the championship leader here.
It is. He's in the traffic. Yeah, I had to think about that for too long. But he's in the traffic, and actually Verstappen, that worked out really well because Stroll got caught out behind the Haas of Grosjean. He lost a lot of time there and was quite tentative on his outlap. So Verstappen, that's worked out really nicely for him. Haas, what a call. Third and fourth on the same tyres as everyone around them. Magnussen's ticking along really nicely as well, just behind Verstappen, 4 seconds ahead of his teammate. For a team that's got not much to lose, they've absolutely nailed it.
Marcus Winkelhock, Nürburgring, Jenny.
Just thinking about that Haas, that was a mistake, I believe, by the team to start on the full wet. They didn't mean to do that, and it looks like it could be a genius move to make a mistake, correct it, and come out trumps. There's a long way to go yet.
Well, in that case, I take away any praise I have for them. How do you accidentally start on the full wets?
No, they both... Grosjean didn't start on the full wets. He was on the inters,
no, I know,
and they both
Magnussen
pitted for the medium. So Magnussen's one maybe was, but even so, good call from the two drivers to pit so early. It seemed bizarre to be on the wet when the inters were looking like it was maybe too dry for. So third and fourth, though, great job. And Bottas, 7th place. Now that's a genuine 7th place. And he's got a lot of work to do, a lot of overtaking. He's very close behind Charles Leclerc. He's in a Mercedes that's extremely quick, particularly now it's going to dry up. He can do some overtaking, but he's going to be surely coming in under investigation for that jump start as well at some point.
Leclerc on softs, Vettel on mediums. Leclerc is the only driver in the top 12 that is on the soft compound of tyre. That's presumably going to hurt him later in this Grand Prix.
It will do, probably, and that's probably why he was so quick initially to catch Lance Stroll and pressurise the Canadian, who's now right up behind Grosjean for fourth.
Looks to the inside and has quite a lot of confidence to send it on the inside, even though it gets quite tricky in these conditions because offline is the wet part, but Stroll got that job done nicely.
Really nice move, yep. Late on the brakes, Grosjean started to turn in, then saw that there was a pit car on his inside and chose to leave enough space for Stroll, who's up into fourth place.
Bottas jumped the start.
Okay, we can report and check.
Well, Bottas jumped the start, said Sebastian Vettel. It's absolutely true. And there's so many weird things with jump starts that the FIA deem in their regulations that are just so silly, in my opinion, that I don't really understand. Who was it? Was it Rosberg? Or was it Bottas, in fact, in Austria a few years ago, where he went before the lights went out, but it was within FIA tolerance. Raikkonen's just been given a 5-second time penalty for being out of position on the grid. But Bottas never seemed to come... With the Vettel one last year, he kind of came back to a complete stop and then started again, so fine, let him go. But Bottas, for me here, fully started, stopped a bit, but jumped the start. Okay, he lost out, but that's, I don't know.
And when he stopped, was he ahead of his grid box? Was he therefore out of position on the starting grid?
Yeah, well, here comes Bottas on the back of Charles Leclerc, sends it to the inside, and it's actually pretty dry on the inside line going into the first corner, so that's why, well, having said that, Bottas slews a little bit wide, and Leclerc is going to try and get back past. He squeezes Bottas to the inside. He's now on a very wet part of the track. Leclerc goes all the way around the outside, and Bottas has almost lost control and has to drop further back behind Leclerc and into the clutches of Sebastian Vettel.
That one didn't work out then. He was on the inside for turn one, but couldn't stop it on the damper part. Leclerc then played it really nicely, kept Bottas pinned to the inside for turn two, and from there actually just couldn't turn in at all. And then when he did, had a huge snap of oversteer, ran off the track and had a bit of a drama.
Oh, so where Latifi got the puncture because he came out pretty much side by side with Carlos Sainz, and the two, well, not side by side, Sainz was slightly behind and clobbered the left rear, and that gave Latifi the puncture.
Shame for Latifi because he was having a good race, and that wouldn't have been his fault, but it will be Williams' fault for an unsafe release there. Straight into the path of Sainz, contact, and that'll be a penalty for Latifi, I'm sure of it. But it's a shame because he was actually fighting for position there with Sainz. Yeah,
Sainz down in 12th position at the moment. The other McLaren of Lando Norris in 18th, so not sure what's happened to those in the opening couple of laps. Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the race, 0.6 of a second quicker than Max Verstappen in second. There's 8 seconds between them, and then it is the 8-second gap back to the Magnussen, Stroll, Grosjean, Leclerc fight, with Bottas running in 7th. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, just looking at those pit stops when they came in, it looks like Vettel and Sainz had slightly slow pit stops, so not ideal for them. McLaren have new technology this week, this year, and then struggling to quite get on top of it at the moment. And good to Steiner, speaking about the tyre decision. So still a long race to go. I'd like it to finish now. We took the gamble and it paid off. Let's see if it pays off.
Lap 9 of 70. Magnussen in 3rd at the moment, but won't be for too long because Lance Stroll is closing in on the back of him. Good race this for Stroll, naturally, because he's running in 4th, but his teammate Sergio Perez is down in 10th position at the moment. Here's Leclerc's radio.
These softs are rubbish.
Leclerc saying these softs are rubbish.
What's interesting is that he's actually no quicker than Romain Grosjean. He's not really catching Grosjean. In fact, he's dropping away on this lap as well. The gap there is 2.5 seconds. And Leclerc in a Ferrari in 6th place is holding Bottas back, fighting with him well, but not able to pressure Grosjean for 5th.
Stroll unable to get past Magnussen that time on the run down into turn 1. Now Bottas is having another go at Leclerc to the inside. Leclerc laid on the brakes, keeps it there on the outside. He's going to try and do the same manoeuvre, but Bottas is a little bit more under control coming out of turn 1 this time, so Leclerc can't get the cutback, and Bottas is now up into 6th position in the Mercedes. His next target is Romain Grosjean in the Haas. So the order is Hamilton, Verstappen, Magnussen, Stroll, Grosjean, Bottas, the top 6. Leclerc, Vettel, Albon, Perez, the top 10 at the moment.
Nice move from Bottas, but as it dries up, that dry line just gets wider and wider, and it becomes easier to overtake in these conditions. Bottas, I now think, will close quickly onto the back of Grosjean, and Stroll is very close behind the other Haas of Magnussen.
Time penalty for Nicholas Latifi for an unsafe release, in the least surprising news of the day so far. Stroll still up behind Kevin Magnussen, then in their battle for 3rd position, looping around turn 13 as the sun peeks through the clouds now at the Hungaroring. Hamilton sets another fastest lap of the race, knocks 0.6 of a second off his best lap and from a lap ago, and he's a second clear of Verstappen. This is turning into one of those drives from Lewis Hamilton. Stroll not really, wow, he really closes in under braking. I know that they tend to concertina up anyway under braking, but that looked pretty strong from Stroll. He's not close enough though to the back of Magnussen to make a move.
Magnussen doing a cracking job, still in 3rd place. And you're right, Stroll now has been this far back for a while.
Kevin, you're doing perfect. We just need the best total race time we can. Our race will come after the pit stop, so just do the best laps you can.
I.e., don't fight Stroll.
Exactly. They're looking at a good haul of points, Haas, because of that gamble early on. But a podium would just be probably out of the question, with Bottas coming through and Stroll looking quick behind them. Really, Haas are in a fight with perhaps AlphaTauri, Renault in the constructors right now, and this position, these points would be great for them. They haven't scored, and they haven't looked like scoring in the previous 2 races.
Down to turn 12. Grosjean now under pressure from Bottas. Bottas has pretty much driven away from Charles Leclerc. As you alluded to earlier, Vettel's a second quicker on that last lap than Leclerc, so those two Ferraris are going to be together, and one of them's just gone off and lost out, and it was Vettel. Vettel's gone off at turn 12, loses out to Alex Albon. Here's Bottas's radio.
So hard to rain 12 minutes away, so you can use these tyres.
Bottas using these tyres, and Grosjean defends a little, but Bottas sweeps around the outside of him. Rain 12 minutes away, so no need to tyre save. That'll be interesting when that comes. Hamilton leading, Verstappen second, Magnussen third, Stroll is still fourth, Bottas is now up into fifth, Grosjean is sixth, Leclerc is seventh, Albon in eighth, having got past Sebastian Vettel, who slithered wide at turn 12.
Let's see how it happened then. Down towards 12, and it was just a front right lock-up, in a bit too deep, then got out wide, and Albon was close enough to come through. He was within a second anyway of Vettel, but just simply in too deep, front right lock-up, and off he went.
And that was very much thank you very much for Alex Albon, who came through, took a place, and is now running in 8th position. So Sebastian Vettel running in 9th spot at the moment, lap 13 of 70, but we're told that rain is 12 minutes away. That minute will be that radio message will be a couple of minutes old at least, so 10 minutes or so we would expect some rain to come, and it wasn't, they sounded fairly confident on the radio, wasn't it? It wasn't, oh, there might be some rain, but keep looking after your tyres. It was, the rain's coming, do what you want with these.
Yeah, exactly. Significant enough rain that they're going to need a pit stop for intermediates. That would imply on the radio message to Bottas. So, yeah, we're going to have another twist in this race. Hamilton's got a lovely buffer of 10 seconds, but Ferrari, further back, they're really struggling. Leclerc still with no pace in 7th, still not able to close in on Grosjean at all. And now he's got Alex Albon for company because his teammate's just been off the road at turn 12. Ferrari going backwards.
Albon right up behind Leclerc as well now.
And Lewis, we've seen some rain on the radar, about 12 minutes away. It will only be light.
Okay, so Hamilton being told it will only be light rain, 12 minutes away. Stroll in 4th, still behind Kevin Magnussen. The gap to Bottas is 3.2 seconds. That last lap, Bottas took 1.2 seconds out of him, so a couple more laps and Bottas will be 4th.
Magnussen's pace is super at the moment.
Yeah.
He's only 0.8 of a second per lap off Verstappen, which in that Haas car is not too shabby at all. As they come round this time, Verstappen just underneath the 1 minute 22, and Magnussen a second adrift, but that's why he's keeping Stroll at bay. Stroll now not quite within the DRS zone, and soon he's going to have Bottas behind him, because Bottas now 2 seconds adrift of Stroll, and that's for 4th place.
So Hamilton leading 10 seconds ahead of Verstappen, Magnussen 3rd. Here comes Alex Albon on the run down towards turn 1. Is he going to be close enough to make a move this time on Charles Leclerc? Opens the DRS, closes it again. Whoa, he went in a bit late there. That was a bit of a weird one from Albon. He's ended up pushing Leclerc a bit wide, couldn't quite get on the power, and as a result I don't think he's going to be close enough into turn 2. That felt very half-hearted.
That would have been a crash if he didn't manage to stop it at the apex. Albon there a bit too far back, and actually, as you say, a bit half-hearted, not fully committed to it, but just went for a bit of a late look up the inside, a little bit like Leclerc or Vettel in the previous weeks, but he managed to stop it, and Leclerc didn't turn in and chop his nose for an early apex. He's looking racy though, Albon, 13th on the grid, up to 8th. Red Bull clearly good in these conditions with Verstappen up in 2nd, but Albon on the attack. You do feel it's a matter of time. Leclerc's just going backwards on those soft tyres, which in theory seemed a good option in the short term at least.
Yeah.
It was the long run they might degrade, but Leclerc's never really got them fired up.
Jenny Gao.
Yes, just having a quick look. The driver steward this weekend is Derek Warwick. So Valtteri Bottas and his supposed jump start, it'll be Derek Warwick who has to take a look at that if that's indeed what they decide. I haven't seen a message flash up saying it's under investigation yet, though.
No, that's the thing. I don't know in what world it wouldn't at least be investigated.
Here comes Albon on the run down to turn 1. Is he going to fancy a bigger, stronger look this time, or it's another little half-hearted one down into turn 1? He'll get the run now into 2. He's a bit neater through the first corner. Leclerc, does he defend? No, he does not, but Albon doesn't go for it again. So sort of weirdly cautious, but also a bit aggressive there from Albon. But totally agree on the stewards. Why it's not under investigation is baffling.
Yeah, that's the bare minimum. If they investigate it, we get further looks and see actually he was stationary and in his grid box, then that's similar to Vettel last year and fine. Vettel, I believe, was at least investigated last year, but Bottas, I'm surprised 16 laps into the Grand Prix that's not even flagged up. I mean, I'm amazed.
Yeah. Jenny?
Yeah, it's just looking at Hamilton and been listening across his radio. Max Verstappen is now in second place, over 10 seconds behind Hamilton, but apparently Hamilton's only just found out Verstappen actually started this race. He thought Verstappen was out of the race. So weird what a driver's perspective is so different from everybody else's who has all the information.
Well, it's because they got no big screens. That's why.
I think we all thought Verstappen wouldn't start the race when he got to the back of the grid. How he's there is a miracle. What a job from the Red Bull mechanics. And how he's the car behind Lewis Hamilton, which I bet Hamilton's very glad he's there, to be honest, because he's looking like he might take points off Bottas this afternoon.
Here comes Albon, third time lucky down into turn one, sends it in super late to the outside on Charles Leclerc this time, and he's going to get done by Vettel here if he's not careful. On the run down into the left-hander of turn two, he isn't in the end. But Albon being very tentative at the moment. Stroll has got past Magnussen on that last lap as well. Down into turn one, Stroll up into third place ahead of Kevin Magnussen. So the order is Hamilton, Verstappen, Stroll, Magnussen, Bottas, Grosjean. A very smoky Pierre Gasly returns to the pits. They had a new power unit in that car after his failed yesterday, and it is now barbecuing itself today.
Very smoky. Gasly eager to get out of that car. Pretty sharpish, and that's a shame for him. Qualified so well yesterday, but he's had engine issues all weekend. Didn't run an FP1, gremlins in qualifying, and out of the race 17 laps in today.
Jenny?
That's a bigger problem than they thought then, because they changed the power unit as a precaution overnight. They don't get a penalty for it, and now it's gone up like a barbecue. So that's not just a power unit. That might be packaging, cooling, whatever's going on. It's certainly not liking it in that AlphaTauri. So huge problems for the team to work out what's going on, and for Honda.
Bottas has got ahead of Magnussen now, up into fourth place then. Valtteri Bottas at turn one goes ahead of Magnussen. So the order is Hamilton, Verstappen, Stroll, Bottas, Magnussen, Grosjean, the top six, Leclerc, Albon, Vettel, Perez, the top 10. Still, there's a huge queue now forming behind Charles Leclerc. It's bringing Sergio Perez back into the fight for the top five here, because he's rejoining this queue, as is Perez, as is Ricciardo and Sainz.
Why aren't we getting any more power?
Albon wanting to know why he's not getting any more power. Albon last year, very racy. On occasion, we think of Spa when he carved through the field. He had to carve through the field a number of times, but I don't know if he's being a little
non-committal right now.
Cautious today. You know, I guess the last thing he needs is to wipe out with a Ferrari and not score any points in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, exactly. But he's in a car that's got a lot more pace right now than Leclerc's Ferrari. Verstappen's 2.3 seconds quicker than Leclerc on the last lap, in clear air, of course, in second place. And Albon is just bottled up behind the Ferrari, as is Vettel, Perez, Ricciardo and Sainz. There's a battle from 7th all the way down to 12th. 4 different teams involved in it now, and it's all bottling up behind Leclerc. Albon's close this time. Is he going to have another look?
Here they come onto the start-finish straight. Bottas is clear of Magnussen and Grosjean, but Leclerc is not there yet, and that's it's a bit more committed from Albon to the inside, gets the position this time. He'll have the DRS on the run down to turn 2 as well, so Albon gets through in the end. Leclerc now having to defend from his teammate Sebastian Vettel. Let's see how that one goes when they start racing wheel to wheel, which is going to be imminently. But Albon in the end gets through up into 7th position. It still didn't feel super committed, but the move was made.
Yeah, he didn't give Leclerc no option of staying on the outside. Leclerc thought about it, but this time I think Albon knew what he was going to do. Just stick it down the inside a little deeper. But yeah, this time, actually, to be honest, it was still fairly half-hearted, but Leclerc didn't turn in as aggressively as he has on the last few occasions. Crucial move, though, up to 7th place, and now he's got the 2 Haas cars ahead, Magnussen and Grosjean, which he should be able to reel in and be fighting again in the top 5, Albon, soon. But it's a 7-second gap to Grosjean. That's how slow Leclerc's been going.
Sound you can hear now is Sebastian Vettel, who's right underneath the rear wing of Charles Leclerc. Really surprised at Leclerc's pace here, actually, that it hasn't improved or got better, or because he went on the softer tyres, which in theory would be quicker. They're not the best tyres for the race overall, but for sort of 10 laps or so, okay, now we're down to 20 laps, you'd have thought they would have had some point where they were strong. Vettel bails out of that look coming down into the first corner, but certainly doesn't look like there's team orders here, although Vettel might have a run coming down towards turn 2. He's got the outside line and the DRS, and he goes around the outside of his teammate Leclerc and up into 8th position. So the order is Hamilton, Verstappen, Stroll, Bottas, Magnussen, the top 5, Grosjean, Albon, Vettel, Leclerc, Perez, the top 10. Let's go to the BBC's chief F1 writer, Andrew Benson. Leclerc on softs, Andrew.
Yeah, I don't understand what they're doing. I mean, all the teams have been saying the soft tyre is hopeless. All the drivers have been talking about it. It'd be a dreadful tyre for the race. None of them wanted to start on it. You saw the Renaults try and get through Q2 on the mediums, which is obviously over-optimistic. So they all knew that there was going to be really bad graining on the soft if the conditions were cold, which they obviously are. So what on earth Ferrari thought they were doing, putting on the softs, I can't imagine.
Air temperature 21 degrees, track temperature 26 degrees, and this is Leclerc's radio.
Are we sure the rain is coming? If not, I want to beat.
Copy, understood.
Does Leclerc pit? No, stays out for another lap. Swings around turn 14, out over the start-finish straight again, with this queue of cars behind him, and Sergio Perez is going to be the first driver to attack, and I would imagine Perez will breeze through fairly straightforwardly in the racing point. Down towards turn 1, Leclerc has a little feint to the inside to cover him off, but Perez will just almost drive around the outside of Leclerc at turn 1. Now he's got the run coming down into turn 2, which is a left-hander. Perez sells the dummy, he's on the wet. Is he going to get that one stopped? Leclerc tries to hang it around the outside. The two are still side by side, and Leclerc holds the place. He's fighting hard against the racing point, and now Ricciardo and Sainz are all basically within a second.
Leclerc chopping quite aggressively just before the braking zone. Perez nearly ran into the back of him in towards turn 2. They were quite close into turn 1 as well, but he's managed to hold the place for now. Super close, almost side by side through 3, but there's only one dry line, and that would have ended in tears if Perez tried to keep his foot in around the outside there. But Leclerc just struggling so much on those soft tyres. He was quick, straight out the pits he was quick, and I do think he's probably just grained them up.
I'm losing so much. My front left is dead. I think we should stop.
Copy, understood.
And I think they're going to stop. It looks as though Ferrari are ready in the pit lane for Charles Leclerc to enter. Here he comes now, and see where that rain is. That releases Sergio Perez to try and close in on Sebastian Vettel, but really poor times for Charles Leclerc as he comes into the pits, and he's going to struggle to score any real points today, I think, after this. On go the hard compounded tyre, and out on his way again. He'll try and get to the end of the Grand Prix on these. Hamilton leading 12 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen in second place. Then it is 16 seconds back to Lance Stroll. Then it is 2 seconds to Valtteri Bottas. Bottas's his pace advantage, let's say, over Stroll has dropped off a little. He was only 0.3 quicker on that last lap. Stroll was quicker than Hamilton in the lead of the Grand Prix. Magnussen and Grosjean still there in 5th and 6th. Albon is closing in on them, but only by about half a second, 6/7 of a second a lap. Vettel is 8th, 9th is Perez, 10th now is Daniel Ricciardo. Outside of the top 10, you've got Sainz, Raikkonen, Ocon, Norris, Leclerc, Kvyat, Russell, Giovinazzi pits, and Latifi is last. Pierre Gasly out of the race with his smoky Honda. Jenny.
Yes, so just been listening across to Max Verstappen's radio. They're really happy with his pace in second place at the moment, and Red Bull saying they're happy as well with the front suspension on that car. Bearing in mind he crashed on his way to the grid and they had to replace it in about 15 minutes. So good news for them. Bad news for Lando Norris and the McLaren, currently 14th. Another slow pit stop for the team, leading to him dropping down the order when they all came in on laps sort of 4 and 5.
Lap 22 of 70. Carlos Sainz is now trying to get past Daniel Ricciardo. Now that Leclerc has pitted, Perez has been released and is now 2 seconds clear of Ricciardo in 10th position. And now Ricciardo is fighting with the McLaren that you can hear of Sainz. And this is Sebastian Vettel's radio.
So light rain expected in 10 minutes.
Well, light rain expected in 10 minutes. That light rain that was expected in 12 minutes was about 4 minutes ago and hasn't arrived. So it looks like we're in one of these Grand Prix where everybody keeps saying it's going to rain, but it isn't.
The 90% chance we had all day yesterday didn't materialise, did it? So a bit of light rain. Let's not hold our breath for that. Leclerc didn't hold his breath, he's in, and if it does rain, he's in big trouble because he'll need to pit again and be in a genuine 15th place. As it is, he's in a fight for 9th where he was really, but he's got a long way to go to get to the end of the Grand Prix.
That's 23 of 70, so not even a half race distance.
And Lewis, can you go menu IC position 9? IC position 9.
What number is that, man?
9.
That's 23 of 70. Out across the line they come. Then the McLaren has dropped back a little bit, actually, from Daniel Ricciardo. Sainz is now 1.2 seconds back and out of DRS range. Hamilton's lead 12 seconds. Bottas is now 1.8 seconds back from Lance Stroll. Let's go back to Jenny.
Yeah, Red Bull have been referred to the stewards. They were seen drying the gearbox of Alex Albon's car, car number 23, by using the engine cooling air of their leaf blowers when using this to cool the car engine. This is in contradiction with the race director's notes, so the matter's been referred to the stewards.
Okay. Yeah, that counts as artificially drying it, I suppose. Lap 24 of 70. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Teams used to... I heard about one team, this was in Formula E, that would pour... You're not allowed to put, like, grippy things down in the garage to get a better drive out of the garage or drive out of the pit stops. But teams would pour Coke all over the floor.
Feels like a lot of wear on that left front.
Okay, copy.
Hamilton feeling like there's a lot of wear on that left front, but they'd pour Coke on the floor, so it wouldn't look like it was like some grippy pad or anything, but it would just be really sticky, so it was much quicker. But there we go. Lap 24 of 70. Not a great story, that one, but, you know, killed 20 seconds, didn't it? Hamilton then complaining that his front left tyre doesn't look great, but we are into kind of the pit stop window where there's going to be a dry Grand Prix.
We're getting there, but they all want to hang on for this rain, don't they?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the first, apart from Leclerc, who had no real choice, who's going to be the first to say, you know what, it may not rain, and just stick to what would be the more optimal strategy? Bottas is closing slowly but surely onto the back of Stroll. Stroll is driving a great race. Really solid pace for Lance Stroll. He's holding similar to Bottas. Bottas just nibbling away at a couple of tenths a lap. But I don't know if that'll be close enough to actually make the move when he gets there. Mercedes engine v Mercedes engine.
Yeah, Andreas Seidel said earlier on that ideally you need a 2-second pace advantage in order to make an overtake. Here's Vettel.
Struggling a little bit with the front left.
Vettel now struggling a little bit with the front left. No real place to cool the tyres down on this circuit. Fairly relentless with all of the corners and no real long straight to drop the tyre temperatures. Just getting a shot of the radar, and from the northeast there is a big old bunch of cloud coming, but as using the hashtag BBCF1, Rob Colley rather amusingly pointed out, he said soon we'll have a radio message saying a light asteroid strike arriving in 10 minutes, and that'll be about as believable as this rain. Lap 25 of 70.
It is causing a headache for the strategist, though. If Hamilton pits for new tyres and then it rains, he's just made a pit stop for nothing because he'll have to be back in for a set of inters. That's so long as it rains enough that they actually have to change tyres. And we have seen so far this weekend spots of rain, light rain, which we've also heard on the radio, where the drivers don't need to pit at all and they can stick to their guns.
Expecting medium rain in 8 minutes.
Medium rain. What is medium? Did you have... Jen, I'm not actually joking here. I'm not taking the what's it. Did you have different like strategies for different rains? I.e., if your engineer said medium rain, did you knew what that quantifiably meant?
It means more than light rain, less than heavy rain. It's probably medium rain. I know. In answer to your question, no.
Because that feels like a thing Formula One teams would do, right? Is to clarify and quantify the rain, that X amount of millimetres.
Formula One teams can't tell if it's light rain in 5 minutes, light rain in 20 minutes, or heavy rain in 15. They've got no idea. So to try and say it's going to rain 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10, this is too much nitty-gritty. The weather is outside of their remit, quite clearly. But if it's medium rain, if I was driving, I would be thinking that this may well be a switch to intermediates, and that is what I think the rest of the strategists and everyone is thinking, really, because otherwise, with some graining, some left front problems, as Vettel reported, Hamilton reported, you would be thinking about a pit stop, but you can't do that if there is rain imminent. But it's been imminent now for 20 minutes.
Yeah, lap 27 of 70. This Grand Prix is imminently going to end. As I can see some rain over to sort of the south of the circuit. Here's Stroll's radio.
This is I'm struggling.
Stroll saying he's struggling. He's got Bottas for company, about a second behind, but to be honest, he might feel like he's struggling, Lance Stroll, but he's got a very, very straightforward job here to get a fourth position, you know? And I know Formula One driving isn't easy, don't get me wrong, but especially if it stays dry, this is a nailed-on fourth place. He's got millions of miles of advantage over anyone else that could realistically challenge him for that, and he's got a shot at keeping Bottas behind for third, so it's a very good drive this from Lance Stroll.
Yeah, Racing Point could opt to pit and gamble against Mercedes and gamble that it wouldn't rain, because Stroll has pretty much got a pit stop to Kevin Magnussen in fifth, so if he had to do an extra pit stop, he could do that and still be ahead of the Haas cars, who were still running in fifth and sixth. Cracking job. But that's the gamble that Stroll could do. He'd only do that if he gets passed by Bottas and they think that they can actually hold him off.
Charles Leclerc thinking about a move on Lando Norris, not quite close enough coming into turn 1 in the Ferrari, now coming down towards turn 2, and Norris actually got pretty good drive off there, so no move this time around. Jenny has news on Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, we saw his AlphaTauri pretty hot before when he retired from the race. It was a drivetrain issue that they're going to investigate.
Okay, so they've had their spectacles out. What are they called? Magnifying glasses at Toro Rosso at AlphaTauri, and realised that when the power unit comes in on fire, there's a power unit problem to investigate. So there we go. Lap 28 of 70. Hamilton leading, 13 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Stroll in third. Fourth is Bottas, fifth is Magnussen, sixth is Grosjean, Albon seventh, Vettel eighth, Perez ninth, Ricciardo 10th, Sainz, Raikkonen, Ocon, Norris, Leclerc the top 15, Kvyat, Russell, Giovinazzi and Latifi the top 19.
Starting to bunch up behind Grosjean in sixth place now. Albon very close behind him, then Vettel and Perez joining quickly. This is the sound on board Alex Albon, looking at the back of Grosjean's Haas. Into turn 4. No overtaking really through this section, the middle sector. Tight and twisted. They've got a Williams to lap ahead. Grosjean will be hoping that he gets out of the way pretty quickly.
Leclerc side by side with Lando Norris, trying to go round the outside at turn 2. Not able to pull that one off. Apologies, Jenny, I thought you said powertrain, but you said drivetrain, so that's different to the power unit then, I suppose. Lap 29 of 70. Hamilton leading, Verstappen second, the gap 13 seconds between them, 16 seconds back to Stroll, and then it's 1.5 seconds back to Bottas, so Bottas basically just sitting in behind Stroll at the moment. Magnussen and Grosjean in 5th and 6th positions. Just wondering here, what tyres did Magnussen and Grosjean start the race on? Officially, I think that's going to. And my point is, can they stick another set of mediums on at the pit stop?
Grosjean's been done by Albon.
Yeah.
In turn 1 that lap around, and that was important because Vettel's just behind as well. And now Vettel is going to pounce probably on the next lap. Grosjean's starting to drop, and he has been on those tyres a few laps longer than anyone, of course, because he did start the race on them. But one for Andrew Benson, really.
Yeah.
If you do the green flag lap on an Inter, does that mean you then can use 2 sets of mediums in the race?
And is it when it's a declared a wet race that the 2 tyre strategy doesn't count? I can't remember the exact rulings. Lap 30 of 70. I'll get the rules up, basically. Just getting a replay of how Albon got Grosjean, and it was a. Okay, he's really coming from a long way back here, Albon, and there was a bit of contact.
There was. Again, he was on the inside, and he's risking it with these moves up the inside. In the end, he made it stick, and there was slight contact into the side of Grosjean's front wing, but not locked up. Vettel pits from behind Romain Grosjean. So Ferrari now thinking it's not going to rain, maybe.
Okay, or that they have can't keep going on this compound of tyre. Into the pits he comes, Sebastian Vettel. The hard tyres going on, the Ferrari, and then emerges onto the track again. So both Ferraris now down outside of the top 10. Hamilton leading, setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix again on a 1 minute 21.198. Verstappen is second, 14 seconds further back. Stroll is third, 17 seconds behind. Then it's a second and a half to Bottas. Then it's Magnussen in fifth, Albon sixth, Grosjean seventh, Perez eighth, ninth for Ricciardo, and 10th for Carlos Sainz. Raikkonen's 11th, just ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who's emerged from the pits in front of Esteban Ocon. Norris, Leclerc, Kvyat, Russell, Giovinazzi and Latifi, the rest of the 19 runners.
Looks like Mercedes have got away with that one, particularly Valtteri Bottas. His start, halfway through the race, no sign of any investigation.
Well, like...
Bizarrely.
Yeah. Very, very strange. Lap 31 of 70. Hamilton still leading, and this is Verstappen's radio.
The left front is getting really bad, mate.
Left front is getting really bad, says Max Verstappen. Not as bad as it was just before the start of the race, as Sergio Perez is now going to pass Romain Grosjean on the run down into turn 1. Perez pulls to the inside and cruises past the Haas into the first corner. So Perez now up into 7th, Grosjean down to 8th. Magnussen still running well, I have to say, in 5th position. Quite a way ahead of his teammate Romain Grosjean at the moment, about 10 seconds or so. And Albon, is he closing in on Magnussen? He is, by about 7/10 of a second a lap. Everyone else's pace, i.e. Verstappen, Stroll and Bottas, is pretty even. Leclerc still trying to fight his way past Lando Norris, but I guess these are, overall, two pretty evenly matched cars. Leclerc's managed to get the inside here. Very nice work from the Monegasque. Norris tries to hold it on around the outside of 2. Leclerc gets a twitch on, and they're so close to hitting, but they don't. That was lovely.
Wow. Leclerc right on the limit of traction coming through turn 2. It is a corner where you can go inside or outside. Leclerc hit the inside, but Norris managed to hold on around the outside. Leclerc super twitchy on the throttle, trying to get the power down and keep ahead into turn 3, but he couldn't do it.
Yeah, so close between them. Really good stuff. Leclerc did well to find that inside, and then they were so close to interlocking wheels there. But right on the limit stuff. And Leclerc gave him room on the exit of... If that had been tarmac runoff on the exit of turn 2, he'd have just shepherded him wide and probably been through. But had to leave him room because there's grass there.
But just on the exit, mid-corner there's not. But,
well, true.
Good old-fashioned part of the racetrack. But yeah, great racing. They were an inch from big contact, but they got away with it. Leclerc this time looks closer though, down to turn 1.
Fastest lap of the Grand Prix set by Sebastian Vettel. Leclerc doesn't quite have the confidence on the brakes to lunge it, does he, on Norris? He'll now get the DRS on the run towards 2. This time Norris pushes Leclerc to the outside of the track. Leclerc on the hard compounded tyre, Norris on the softs, and Leclerc, can he get right the way round? Yes, he can. Gets ahead of Lando Norris, found the inside line for turn 3, and the Ferrari is up into 13th position after all of that.
And he's made his pit stop, so he's still 7 seconds away from his teammate Sebastian Vettel, who's also pitted. Ferrari having a really tough afternoon, and what Leclerc doesn't need is to be losing a load of time fighting Lando Norris, who's also having a really tough afternoon, but well outside of the points.
So good fighting between those two for 13th place. Sebastian Vettel looks like he's going to set another fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Hamilton is leading at the moment. Verstappen is second, Stroll is third.
Spots of rain, Jack.
What quantity rain would you call that? That's a 1 out of 10, isn't it?
That's a half out of 10. I don't know if that even counts as light rain.
Is light rain heavier than drizzle?
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Grosjean.
Sorry, I was watching that great move from Daniel Ricciardo, passing Romain Grosjean around the outside of turn 2. Similar move to Leclerc, but good stuff from Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault, up to 8th from 11th on the grid. Mercedes getting ready in the pit with some drizzle in the air, some light drizzle.
It's for Valtteri Bottas. So Bottas comes in from 4th position just as the rain is coming. So this is a bold one for Mercedes, out on another set of medium tyres. And that will give him some clear... I guess they were just getting bulked behind Stroll. I can't see that they're going to have the pace at the halfway point to catch Verstappen, but we'll wait and see. But Bottas was just losing time behind Stroll.
He was losing time. This is a simple undercut then, and it should be relatively easy for Bottas in a Mercedes. Just do a sensible outlap. He was about a second away from Stroll. And really, I think Stroll's going to have no answer to this, so he might as well keep going and try and have a tyre advantage for the end of the race. Really lost it either way, because if Stroll pitted, then Bottas would do exactly the same as he did to Max Verstappen last week. Just go long and attack him at the end. Difficult to defend from a car that's as quick as the Mercedes this year.
Halfway point of the Grand Prix, lap 35 of 70. Well, it will be when Hamilton finishes this lap in a couple of moments' time. And he is leading the Grand Prix, 20 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen in second place. Yes, Lewis Hamilton is leading the way. He's 19 seconds clear of Max Verstappen in second position, who's 18 seconds clear of Lance Stroll in third position. It's a really spread out race up at the front. The threat of rain is still in the air, but it hasn't delivered yet. Hamilton leading comfortably. 5th is Magnussen, 6th is Albon, 7th is Perez, 8th is Ricciardo, 9th is Sainz, 10th now is Grosjean, so he's really slipped away. Vettel, Leclerc, Norris, Kvyat, Ocon the top 15, Russell, Raikkonen the top 17, and Bottas, I think, just got a bit held up behind one of the Haas cars.
Light rain. Light rain, more than drizzle now, as we were on board with Hamilton getting very held up behind Romain Grosjean. The rain definitely coming down a little bit heavier. Not enough to dampen the track. Albon's into the pits for a set of hard, slick tyres, dry tyres. So they clearly, no one thinks this rain is going to be significant enough to warrant a set of intermediates.
Jenny.
Yes, well, Lewis Hamilton's just said on his radio he can see spots of rain. And a little while ago, Sainz was given a message, a couple of laps ago, I think, basically saying that the rain was coming in 1 or 2 minutes, which it has done. It was going to be heavy enough for intermediates, but only for a maximum of 10 laps. So we could get some very, very hairy driving for the next few laps if that rain does come as heavy as they expect it to at McLaren.
10 laps feels like a lot, though, 10 laps feels enough to switch to an intermediate tyre, doesn't it? Stroll pitting now in the Racing Point. Is he going to have been undercut by Valtteri Bottas? I think the answer is going to be yes, because Bottas is about to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, while Stroll is only just pulling into his pit box now. So Bottas gets ahead of Lance Stroll. He was 3 seconds quicker than anyone else on that last lap, Valtteri Bottas. So he comfortably gets past Stroll and up into third position. So Hamilton leads, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Stroll fourth. Magnussen pits from 5th position now.
But that pace that Bottas had is exactly why Stroll was stuffed either way, really.
Yeah.
When you've still got a pit stop to go, it's difficult to cover.
Okay, conditions-wise, Max, expecting it to remain as it is for the next 4 or 5 minutes and then clear to the end of the race.
Okay, so, yeah. Lap 37 of 70, Verstappen then pitting. That's why they're going to pit him, I suppose, because they think that this rain is not going to be too bad now, as he gets onto the brakes, down to 80 kilometers an hour, and pulls into the Red Bull garage. A new set of tyres for Lando Norris, 3.6 second stop for McLaren. He's gone out on the hards, as has Max Verstappen, as they make their way out onto the track again. Norris is going to come out just behind Esteban Ocon, just in front of George Russell. And we're on lap 37 of 70. Verstappen coming out still in second position, but 40 seconds now behind Hamilton. But of course, Hamilton has still got to stop. Verstappen just coming out in front of Raikkonen. Bottas again sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's only 10 seconds behind Verstappen here. So if he's got some proper pace, Bottas, he might be able to close in on him.
Yeah, he might, and they're going to the end of the race on these tyres now. Bottas on the mediums, Verstappen switched to a hard tyre in the Red Bull, so a lot of drivers reporting graining and struggling with the front left. Verstappen presumably choosing a hard tyre to not go through that again, and we're going to see a straight fight then between Bottas, who's super quick, and Verstappen to the end of the race.
Hamilton pits from the lead. New set of mediums going on Hamilton's car then, so he's double mediuming it by the looks of things. Meanwhile, Alex Albon is now getting past Kevin Magnussen. That is for 8th position. So Hamilton leads and won't need to pit again. Verstappen is second, won't need to pit again. Then it is Bottas in third, Stroll in fourth. All of those won't stop again. Ricciardo in fifth will most likely need to make another pit stop. Same is true of Sainz in sixth. Then you've got Vettel in 7th. Magnussen in 8th has only made one stop. 9th is Albon, 10th is Perez. Haas are getting a bit shuffled out here, aren't they? After starting in 3rd and 4th. OK, they don't have a very fast car, but they are going to be shuffled quite a long way out of the points here, I think.
Grosjean is now down in 13th and behind many drivers who also are on the same strategy now and going to the end. So Grosjean somehow has lost a lot of time in that pit stop window. Magnussen down to 9th, and similar situation really. The big winner is Sebastian Vettel. Ferrari decided earlier than most that it wasn't going to rain again to any level of significance, and Vettel has got himself comfortably ahead of Albon and Magnussen in the pit stop window, up to 7th, with Ricciardo and Sainz ahead, still needing to stop.
That 38 of 70, so we're still only just past half race distance here on the BBC Sport website and app. Thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully you didn't have all the stress at the start of the Grand Prix like last week, whether we were going to appear or not. Should have been here nice and on time, so thank you very much for joining us for that. We'll obviously be back in 2 weeks' time for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and that is going to be on BBC Radio 5 Live, so we'll have no issues with that one. But of course, practice and a preview show and all of that stuff to come in a couple of weeks. Lap 39 of 70, Hamilton's lead 20 seconds over Max Verstappen. As Quixotic Geek pointed out earlier using the hashtag BBCF1, Hamilton's lead is so much that he could park up at Red Bull, get them to change his front suspension and still emerge in the lead of the Grand Prix. Bottas now just 5.5 seconds back from Verstappen. He's absolutely rapid here, Valtteri Bottas, way quicker than the Red Bull, which I guess is what we would expect in dry conditions.
It is, and particularly with the Red Bull on the hard tyre and the Mercedes, both of them, on the medium tyre. So different strategy, and right now it's working for Bottas. He's reeling in Verstappen, and we're going to get a Styrian Grand Prix take 2. For second place, closing stages, Bottas v Verstappen. The only thing is, this track, it's harder to overtake. Bottas couldn't make it past Lance Stroll for many laps, couldn't really get close enough to challenge him, barely within a second. Can he challenge Verstappen? Of course, Verstappen has the Honda engine instead of the Mercedes, so might be a little bit easier on the straight.
Kevin Magnussen is getting overtaken by Sergio Perez. No, not quite. Perez tried to get around the outside, and then Magnussen chops across the front of Perez and then gets back around the outside anyway. So Sergio Perez does move up into 9th position. That was the corner, I think, that caused the Hülkenberg-Magnussen licking controversy of a few years ago. But Magnussen holds on to that 10th position now, so final points paying position, but it's going to be a struggle for him to keep ahead of the Ferrari. Lap 40 of 70.
Ricciardo and Sainz still ticking along at good pace. They're going to be strong at the end of the race. The Renault in 5th, the McLaren in 6th. They've got a pit still, you really would have thought. Still 30 laps to go, must be too long. Technically they don't, because they have done their pit stop and they started on the intermediate tyres, but they're still ticking along nicely and will be quick at the end of the race, so that's going to be more headaches for Magnussen.
Lap 40 of 70, Jenny.
Yeah, and going from the estimated tyre life, the hard tyre should be able to give you 55 laps out there, so it's touch and go for some of them.
Just think about managing that front left. We did add balance.
I am.
Well, Hamilton, of course, went out on the mediums. He can double medium it as he rather amusingly drives past a big screen of Nico Rosberg. Actually, it was Bottas driving past it, wasn't it? So that was quite funny. But anyway, yeah, you can medium tyre on this one because it started in wet conditions, so you don't have to use both compounds of tyre. So that's why we see Hamilton on the mediums, Bottas is on the mediums again as well, Verstappen is on the hards, and once again another second comes out of that gap between Verstappen in second and Bottas in third. So it's now 4.3 seconds between the two of them. Stroll still running in fourth easily, Ricciardo still in fifth, Perez up into ninth place. Not quite making as much progress through the field as I would have expected from Sergio Perez. Not necessarily a criticism of him, but considering his charge last week,
subdued, isn't he? Very subdued race. He started in fourth, like Bottas had a very poor start and dropped a long way down. He ran off the road at turn 11 earlier on as well. I think Alex Albon slipped by him, and he's still there. Now up into eighth because Carlos Sainz finally fits in the McLaren. Switches to a hard tyre, surprisingly, to the end of the Grand Prix. But yeah, he's not charging the same way as he did last week. Meanwhile, his teammate Lance Stroll's having a superb afternoon in fourth place and looking like he can just nurse that one home. He's got such a big gap to the cars behind.
Lap 42 of 70. Hamilton leading, 19 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen in second spot. Bottas in third, 17 seconds back to Stroll, 16 seconds to Ricciardo, 8 seconds to Sebastian Vettel. Not a thriller, not a thriller at the moment. Vettel in sixth, Albon seventh, Perez then into eighth place because of that pit stop for Carlos Sainz. See what Sainz can do compared to Leclerc actually, because Leclerc is on medium tyres that hard tyres that he's been doing 20 laps on now, whereas Sainz is on a new set of hards in the McLaren, which has been, you know, kind of a match to the Ferraris at some point. So interested to see whether Sainz can take advantage of this. Vettel sets a personal best though, meanwhile, in sixth position. Albon in seventh place, Perez eighth, Magnussen ninth, Charles Leclerc in 10th position. Jenny.
Tell you what, when you need to nail your pit stops, team radio.
Okay, George, we expect possible rain in 9 laps.
Here we go again.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you, Russell. And Latifi's off again. Latifi's off in an odd place, actually, at turn 5. So maybe he's lost it at 4 and ended up having his moment into 5, or has he gotten to the grass into 5, into the braking zone? I don't know why I'm guessing. We'll just wait for the replay.
A lot of runoff, but it is in a strange place. That must have been on entry to 5, and he's just had an oversteer and round, I'd have thought. But again, let's wait for the replay. He's had a torrid afternoon. Started so well for Latifi up in the top 10, but incident with Sainz, rear puncture, then a 5-second penalty for hitting Sainz, and now this, in towards turn 5.
Called it.
Well done, Jack Nicholls. He got on the grass on entry to 5, sloppy from Latifi, and luckily there's a lot of runoff there.
Jenny, do continue.
Thank you very much. I will do. Yes. So important to nail your pit stop. Williams have done it today. Their fastest pit stop is 2 seconds, equaling that of Red Bull. But if you look at McLaren, they've had issues every race so far with pit stops. And again today, they just did a Sainz pit stop to put him onto the hard tyres, and it was a long pit stop. But their slow pit stops are about 3.3, 3.6 seconds. They're losing out a whole heap of time to everybody else.
Yeah, it's it'll come, I suppose. Has Hamilton lapped Leclerc now? Is that what's just happened? Lewis Hamilton lapping the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc.
Sad times for Ferrari. Of course, that's the first time it's happened for Leclerc. He finished second in the Austrian Grand Prix. Didn't race in the Styrian Grand Prix after he took out his teammate on the first lap. And now, the next Grand Prix back, he's in 10th place. And just past half distance, he's been lapped by Lewis Hamilton, who has a nice 19.5-second gap to Max Verstappen. Bottas is closing 4 tenths on the last lap to Verstappen. I reckon it's going to get quite tangy soon. 2 seconds difference, Bottas behind Verstappen. It's going to be race on.
A tangy final third of this Grand Prix coming up then. Hamilton leading, 20 seconds ahead of Verstappen in second still. Bottas, the gap is 2.2 seconds between them. Ricciardo's still going well in that 5th position. Just as I say that, he pits. He's going to come out. He might even come out in front of Leclerc here. It's going to be tight. It'll be around that Leclerc-Sainz period. And Sainz on that last lap was 3 seconds quicker than Leclerc. So we'll keep an eye on that one. New set of mediums for Daniel Ricciardo, who won here for Red Bull in 2014. And now makes his way out of the pits Where is Charles Leclerc? He's just come over the start-finish line now, and so Ricciardo is going to be side by side with him into turn 1, into the right-hander, and I think Ricciardo might have just emerged in front. He has. Ricciardo holds off Charles Leclerc and is in 9th position now in the Renault. So Leclerc, as it stands, gaining 1 point from this Grand Prix. Still 25 laps to go. But Ricciardo coming out only 5 seconds behind Magnussen with better tyres. Could be on for a reasonable run here, Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, he did a really solid first stint there. Went long and was fast as well for the duration. That's why he's in 9th place. He will catch Magnussen pretty quickly, you'd have thought. 3 seconds the gap. And Ricciardo on the medium compound, which is the fastest way to the flag for him. Magnussen, and maybe even Perez Albon if he's got a lot of pace.
Roxy wants to know, was getting tangy in the commentary a bet? It was not a bet. Palmer just said it.
A tangy end to the race.
That 45
keeps you on the edge of your seat. What? A little bit of je ne sais quoi.
Is that what tang means?
Tangy, tang-fastics.
They keep me on the edge of my... They wire me, they do. I've stopped having those before commentaries,
well,
I tell
get
you.
wired now because Bottas is 1 second behind Verstappen. Get your tang-fastics in.
Other delicious, sour yet sweet treats are available. Bottas then, as they come over the line, I think he's just going to be outside of DRS range as they get onto the brakes into the first corner. Bottas on the medium tyre, Verstappen on the hards, and I think Verstappen was helped because he'd have got maybe DRS from a car that they're looking to lap. Hamilton leading, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Stroll fourth, Vettel fifth. Albon is closing in on Sebastian Vettel, but only by about 0.3 of a second a lap, but he is only 3 seconds behind. Perez is 7th, 8th is Magnussen, 9th is Ricciardo, 10th is Leclerc. Sainz is right on the back of Leclerc here. The Monegasque isn't going to score points today, I don't think, as the McLaren is right up behind the Ferrari. Kvyat 12th, Grosjean 13th, Ocon 14th, Norris 15th, Russell, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Latifi, the top 19. Latifi 2 laps down after all his issues. Obviously still worth pointing out, no penalty for Valtteri Bottas because of that jump start. Verstappen.
Hey, they have to move, come on, I'm fighting for second here.
Yeah, understood, Max. We're trying.
I guess that's what we have got in a very spread out race, a very spread out field, and as a result, back markers are a little bit more tricky as Lando Norris dives out of the way, and Bottas might be close enough for a look here into turn 1.
Too far back, he had to approach the final corner from the inside, passing Norris, who did get well out of the way. But Verstappen, he's within a second, Bottas, but I think Verstappen will be safe because of Bottas's narrow approach to the final corner. He's got such a long way to go, though, to hold Bottas back. Bottas super quick in this phase of the race, on the medium tyres, looking comfortable within a second of Verstappen, and there's 23 laps that Verstappen's got to hold him off.
Don't forget, we got rain coming in 9 laps about 5 laps ago, which obviously we won't have. At 47 of 70. Hamilton still leading the Grand Prix, and this is Verstappen's radio.
How far is he behind Bottas?
He's right behind you.
Yeah, that's him in your mirrors.
Hamilton still leading. Ricciardo and Magnussen have had a bit of a fight down at turn 1. Ricciardo getting good drive out of the corner and getting ahead of Kevin Magnussen, and now up into 8th position then for the Renault, and he's 8 seconds back from Sergio Perez, so that might be the end of the charge. What are Perez's lap times? He's kind of matching Vettel and Albon, really. Albon is chipping away at Vettel in 5th place, but not to a huge amount. Still lapping the same as Lance Stroll in 4th position, in the most comfortable 4th position in history. Ocon is overtaking Grosjean now for 13th place. So Grosjean loses it and drops down to 14th position. Tough time to be a Haas driver. It almost feels like it's more demoralising when you take a bit of a gamble. You end up in 3rd and 4th. You think, you know what, we're in for a good race here. And then you just end up going backwards and not having a good race at all.
Well, Magnussen's still 9th. Grosjean is having a really poor second part of the race. But Magnussen's driven brilliantly all race so far. Was ahead of his teammate after being behind coming into the pits, I think, earlier on. And he's still 9th. He's still ahead of Leclerc's Ferrari. That might get interesting coming up because Leclerc's slowly catching, and Leclerc's bringing Carlos Sainz with him. Sainz very close and fast behind the Ferrari man, and that's all for 9th place. So 9th, 10th and 11th, one of those three is going to be without points. And I'll tell you what, those minor points would mean so much more to Magnussen than they would to Leclerc or Sainz.
Yeah, that is true. Lap 49 of 70. Hamilton leading the Grand Prix, 23 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen now. There is 2 seconds between Bottas and Verstappen at the moment, this time through, so no overtake on this occasion for Valtteri Bottas. Quite a long way away. Stroll 4th, Vettel 5th, Albon, Perez, Ricciardo, Magnussen and Leclerc the top 10. Grosjean has just had a lock-up as he tries to fight with Lando Norris for 14th position. Norris is surely going to get him here on the run down to turn 2. The papaya orange McLaren swoops to the outside and breezes past the Haas and is up into 14th position. 15th Grosjean, 16th Russell, 17th Raikkonen, 18th Giovinazzi, 19th Latifi. I can always tell. Here's Grosjean's radio.
Is everything okay on the car? I don't have any more grip at all. They have marble, but just check everything.
All looks okay. All looks okay.
Yeah, Grosjean rapidly falling back now. Initially it kind of looked worse than it was because there were a couple of cars in between him and Magnussen, but not a huge amount of time, whereas now there's more and more time between the two of them. Lap 50 of 70. Won't read out the order again. That's how I know if it's not a great race. That's what I was about to do, but let's go to Jenny instead.
Yeah, just listening across to the team radios, and Max Verstappen's been told that Bottas is struggling with his front left. He's reported graining to the Mercedes team. So the teams do listen to each other's radios, especially on a race like this. It looks like that medium tyre is definitely not holding up as well as the hard at the moment.
Sainz now right on the back of Charles Leclerc for the final points-paying position. Ferrari about to get shuffled out of this one. Leclerc hasn't even really been able to close it. He's not even going quicker than Magnussen. Now, into the pits comes Valtteri Bottas. Out of the pits, I should say, goes Valtteri Bottas. And puts on a set of the hard tyres. So, obviously felt that he was stuck behind Verstappen, was never going to overtake him, so got to do something different. Now, this is kind of like Rosberg, Ricciardo, Singapore 16, I want to say, where do Red Bull stick or twist here? Do they go to the end of the Grand Prix on these tyres? Or, because surely if they pit now, they'll get undercut.
So they have no option. And you know what this is more like? It's more like Verstappen-Hamilton here last year.
Oh, that's a better
exactly the same strategy choice. Hamilton quite close behind Verstappen, wasn't making it on track, pitted with about 19 laps to go, and then came through at a rapid rate and managed to pass Verstappen. That was for the win last year. This is second. But Bottas, I don't think Verstappen can pit. I think he's got to just find a bit of pace and hope that Bottas doesn't get near him.
Lap 51 of 70. Hamilton leading. 23 seconds to Verstappen, 22 seconds to Bottas. We'll see what pace Bottas has. Sainz still up behind Leclerc, half a second between those two. Will the Spaniard be able to overtake? A frustrating races for McLaren. Tricky pit stops and things just haven't quite fallen for them.
No points unless Sainz can make it past the man he's going to be teammates with for next year, Charles Leclerc, for 10th place. Norris down in 14th. The pit stops, McLaren are just so slow so often, and at times they're having even bigger problems, like not getting the wheels on properly in the last year and a half. So they've really got to work on their pit stops. In the midfield fight, as Jenny was saying earlier, it's so crucial, and they've lost a lot of ground again. Sainz within a second of Leclerc, but not going to be easy to pass. This track is not super easy to overtake. We've seen that so far. Sainz might have to get elbows out. Magnussen is still running 9th and running quicker than Leclerc at the moment by 0.3 of a second. Leclerc's got in super deep at 1.
Sainz didn't have DRS on that run towards turn 1, but that mistake from Leclerc will make it a little easier for Sainz. He gets right up on the back of him, but I was a bit surprised he didn't have DRS. He looked close enough to me, and the timing screen says he was 0.9 seconds, so it must have been right on the cusp of not getting it there, but again he's half a second behind Leclerc as they come up the hill. Fastest lap of the race from Valtteri Bottas, 1.4 seconds quicker than Verstappen. There's 20 seconds between them.
So that will just about be enough by the end of the race, but it'll be very close. He's got to keep pumping in fastest lap after fastest lap, qualifying style laps to the end of the Grand Prix, and then pass what will probably be an angry Dutchman by then, with Verstappen now knowing that he's in this long slog of a fight, but not on track just yet. 19.5 seconds Bottas needs to catch up on his better tyres to the end of the race. Leclerc's lock-up on the last lap was big down at turn 1, went in too hard, locked the right front, might have done some damage.
So target pace 18.5 to beat him.
And Bottas did an 18.4 on the last lap, so things looking good for Bottas at the moment. And if he gets ahead of Verstappen with the fastest lap that he will presumably keep, then that would bring them level on points at the top of the championship. Hamilton would be ahead on amount of wins, but they would both be on 62 points.
Interesting scenario, because Hamilton has got a free pit stop.
But does he? It's a bit tight, isn't it?
It's tight for now, but if he can find a bit more pace in the next 10 laps, he would have a free pit stop. I think he does now anyway. And then he can go for fastest lap, and that's a 2-point swing in the championship, which could well be a tight affair as the year goes on.
Lance Stroll into the pits from 4th position. Why not? Nothing else to do for Stroll out there except drive around in circles. As it stands, this would put Max Verstappen up to 3rd in the championship. I think even if he lost out to Bottas, he would remain moving up to 3rd ahead of Lando Norris. And as far as the constructors are concerned, well, I kind of want to close my eyes, because after 2 races, Mercedes had more than double the points of anyone else. After this, it would be the same. They would be on 121 points if it finishes like this. Red Bull would move to 2nd on 53.
And Bottas last lap was 2 seconds quicker than Verstappen. He was targeting a 1:18.5, he's just done a 1:17.9, and he's going even quicker on this lap.
Lap 54 of 70. Hamilton leading, 23 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Then it's 40 seconds to Bottas. Hamilton's lapped everyone up to 7th position. What do we think about this drive from Hamilton? It's a bit of a weird, because he just, in those opening couple of laps, he was unbelievable, but Bottas was bogged down with everybody else, and the pace advantage just kind of meant Hamilton could drive away, and from then on it's been no trouble.
This is another one of those races where it's very tough to judge him. Here he is.
This tyre doesn't feel great.
Tyre doesn't feel great, says Hamilton, but yeah, difficult to judge him.
23-second gap, so I don't think that will worry Mercedes just yet. Yeah, difficult to judge because he's not had his teammate behind him for a pace comparison. Bottas got such an awful start that he looked like he jumped. And undoubtedly, to be 22.5 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen with 15 laps to go, he's done a great job. But again, it's one of those unspectacular ones. Every time Hamilton leads out of turn 1, he wins the race. This is a more dominant one than most. He's done it through tricky conditions at the start, 2 pit stops, changing conditions. It's a great drive, but just on pace, basically. He hasn't had a lot to deal with.
Steve from the Wirral says dancers sometimes get a stage floor in the theatre to be coked to give them better grip. Interesting. That was with reference to one sentence I said about an hour ago, but I've only just looked at the F1 at bbc.co.uk emails. So now I'm looking at them. Feel free to send one if you want.
Friday night in Infernos. Dance floor gets coked, very sticky.
I think that's Sambuca, isn't it, rather than Coke. I've never been to Infernos. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in that. Lap 55 of 70. I did get, well, no, I can't tell, no. 55 of 70. Hamilton leading, 22.5 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. Hamilton won his first race for Mercedes at the 2013 Hungarian Grand Prix, one of his many wins around this circuit. Basically, I got recognised the other day, and it was very strange. That's all. That's what I was going to say. So, and then I realised that was
not
a
in
boring story.
Infernos.
Not in Infernos, no. But it was in Gordon's Wine Bar. You know the one on embankment? Yeah.
All right for some.
Yeah. Lap 56 of 70. Hamilton leading, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Stroll fourth. Vettel in fifth now is just 0.8 of a second ahead of Alex Albon. So Albon in the Red Bull has closed that gap in. And we'll see whether the Red Bull is able to make an overtake. Sainz is only 0.2 behind Leclerc. Where are they on circuit? They're coming through sector 1, so still struggling to get ahead of that Ferrari is Carlos Sainz with lap 56 of 70. But nothing he can quite do about it yet. Albon right on the back, and Albon might be helped here. Well, he's not going to be helped there because he's just gone straight off the road at turn 12, but he's got to give way to... Now, is that Bottas or Hamilton? I think it's Hamilton, yeah. So he'll get out of the way of Hamilton and then maybe try and follow him through on Sebastian Vettel here.
He was a second away, but as you said, he went off the road at turn 12 and lost a bit of time. So he lost actually nearly a second in the final sector. Now he lets Hamilton through into turn 1. He's got to stick now to the back of the race leader and try and get through, and when Hamilton inevitably passes Vettel in the next lap as well.
Hamilton leading, Verstappen second, Bottas then was another 18.6, so the gap comes down to 12 seconds with 14 laps to go. So this is very much doable for Bottas. It's going to be tight, I think. It's not going to be an easy one, but it's not ideal.
He's going to get there easily. 12 seconds with 12 laps to go.
Oh, he did 2 seconds on the last lap.
He's doing 2 seconds a lap. He's going to get there in 6 laps. Have 6 laps to try and pass Verstappen, but with the tyre advantage he's now got, having made that second pit stop, this should be an easy one for Bottas. He's just got to keep it neat through the back markers. That can make a difference. If he loses time through there, that'll help Verstappen. If there's only a few laps, Verstappen is capable of holding Bottas off. We saw that last week for 1 extra lap at least, when he audaciously went around the outside at turn 4. But with the pace that Bottas is catching him, this is going to be a tough ask.
Is Hamilton going to lap Vettel as well here? Just having a look where they... because...
yeah, he will.
Kevin Pearson just emailed saying both Ferraris are going to be lapped by Hamilton, aren't they? Which looks like it's going to be the case. And in fact, it's about to happen now. Sebastian Vettel pulls over and Lewis Hamilton puts a lap on one of his title rivals from the last few seasons. Astonishing performance this from Mercedes, just as a whole.
And this is the problem that Red Bull have when Verstappen's done a great job. He really made the most of the start, the wet conditions to get ahead of Bottas, who made a miserable start. But Mercedes, they're too quick that you just cannot defend from them. On track, maybe in the same conditions. On strategy, no chance. They undercut you, they're done. You're done in 1 lap. You can't cover. If you pit early, they'll just keep going and going and going and do what's happening right now, have a huge tyre advantage for the end of the race and still end up beating you. If Verstappen holds on to this, it'll be some miracle performance ahead of Bottas.
Verstappen's doing a personal best on this run. And he's just coming around the final corner now, so we'll see whether he's able to just hold off that fight for a little bit. 12 laps to go. Hamilton leading. He's got a bit of traffic to come across. How is Sainz getting on? He's still within a second of Leclerc, but not really making any progress. Albon's still within a second of Vettel and not really making any progress.
My driver of the day so far is Kevin Magnussen. 9th place still, and he's going quicker than Leclerc, pulling away from the Ferrari driver. 10-second gap nearly.
Just get your head down back on the pace now, Max.
I'll try as hard as I can.
Yep, as ever.
Well, Bottas had a slow lap on the last tour, so only gained 0.2 on Verstappen as opposed to 2 seconds previously. So a couple of those, and that's when Bottas might not make it.
That's 1 lap wasted basically for Bottas, and maybe that was why Verstappen, maybe that was why it was 2 seconds on the lap before, because Verstappen's presumably had the traffic that Bottas is going through at the moment. And that's the sort of thing, if it was going to be 6 laps, Now it'll be 5 laps at the same rate. If Bottas can't keep pace, the 2-second advantage, then it might be 4 laps, and soon you get to be pretty tight to the end of the Grand Prix. Let's see what they are this time through. Again, Bottas not really any quicker through the first 2 sectors at all. Maybe Verstappen can do it at the end. It's going to be tight.
11 laps to go. Jenny.
Yeah, and just looking at the radio and tyre wear, I mean, Carlos Sainz has been given the G up and told he can try and get Leclerc if he can move a bit faster. And also, Leclerc is on very old tyres. I think they're about 38 laps old, whereas a lot fresher for Sainz. So the McLaren driver should see an opportunity here to try and get into the points.
Might have it here, coming down towards turn 2. He's right in the slipstream of the Ferrari, goes to the outside of Vettel. Doesn't, well, I thought he wasn't committing to all the way around the outside. Well, they were so close. Vettel holds the place. Leclerc, that is, and Leclerc really squeezes him, but he holds the place at the moment in that 10th spot. That was pretty tight.
It was tight there. Sainz not massively committal, though, on the brakes at turn 2. Never really fully alongside, had half a car alongside Leclerc, and Leclerc just ushered in towards the outside, didn't give him the space to go around the outside, which would give him the inside for turn 3, and he's going to have to wait for another lap. But Leclerc is clearly struggling. He is slower than Kevin Magnussen by 1.2 seconds on the last lap. He's got no pace, and he's got Sainz just behind him, desperate for that point.
Bottas has really dropped off the pace, hasn't he? Only 4 tenths quicker than Verstappen on that last lap. He was asked to do a mid-18, an 18.5. He did a 17.9, so has he cooked the tyres?
Phyllis, we're thinking of taking this free stop. You've got 10 laps to go when you cross the line. You'll come out 3 seconds ahead of Verstappen. We'll be taking the hard tyre. Let's now be happy with that.
We don't have a sub we can use.
We don't think that's a very good tyre at all, Lewis. I think hard's the way to go.
I think for 10 laps, the sub is going to be good.
It will grain after 3.
Okay.
Sainz forces his way past Charles Leclerc. Good move down into turn 1, locked up a little bit, but the McLaren has the position and is up into 10th place. Those two will be teammates at Ferrari next year, and now Sainz has got ahead of him into 10th position. Why pit Hamilton so early for the free pit stop? If he wants to go onto the softs, basically he wants to be on the softs to set the fastest lap, why not do it a bit later?
Why do it later? Why do it early? He's got it either way, hasn't he? With the pace that they've got in the car, he's just done a personal best on the mediums, but he's got enough of a gap.
I'm struggling so much.
Sainz past Leclerc, really nice move at turn 1, committed up the inside, and a little lock up at the right front. Then ushered Leclerc off the track on the exit. Don't love to see it, but it's payback for really Leclerc doing the same the lap before. And all of that was just in front of Valtteri Bottas as well. So Bottas not getting the rub of the green with traffic. 9 seconds still the gap between him and Verstappen. Now 8 laps to go. Maybe he's not going to do it.
Hamilton leading, 25 seconds ahead of Verstappen. The gap, exactly identical lap times on that last lap. Both are 1 minute 19.4, so no gain at all from Bottas. And the sort of 1 or 2 laps is, maybe there's a bit of traffic, but this is looking fairly consistent. No pace now from Bottas.
Well, there is traffic. We saw it. It was the Sainz Leclerc fight. There was a Williams in there for good measure as well, but the traffic's just helping Verstappen out. They're just whittling away the laps. 8 to go, 9 seconds. I mean, at best, it's going to be a last lap special for Bottas now.
Lap 62 of 70. Stroll is 13 seconds ahead of Vettel in 5th place. Albon in 6th position is still a second behind Vettel, not quite able to get past him. Perez is 7th, Ricciardo is 8th. Has Ricciardo closed down Perez here? I think he has. That's been quite a good drive from Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault. The other Renault of Esteban Ocon is under pressure from Lando Norris, and Ocon himself is trying to pass Kvyat. So you've got Kvyat in 12th, Ocon 13th, Norris 14th, all together in a little bit of a relatively meaningless fight over 12th position. And across the line again come Verstappen and Bottas. That's a bit more like it. Bottas gets a second out of him, but 8 seconds to go. 8 seconds to go for Bottas. 8 laps to go in the Grand Prix. You do the maths.
Neck and neck across the line. Bottas didn't do enough in the first sector last time. Only 2 corners there, and he's only taken 1/10 out of Verstappen in the first sector this time as well. It's around the rest of the lap that he's making up a bit of time.
Here come Mercedes, and they've got a set of soft tyres for Lewis Hamilton. A used set of softs. They'll have only had a couple of laps put on them, and now they're all going back in. So there we go. Hamilton stays out for another lap. He does sort of need to go for the fastest lap point, doesn't he?
Yeah, it all counts, particularly because at the moment, if he doesn't get it, then Bottas will.
What's going on?
Stand by, Lewis. Need to find out myself.
Interesting.
Shows how little pressure they're under. 6 laps to go in the Grand Prix. Hamilton has a 26-second advantage, and they're not quite sure what's going on. He will surely pit and take that fastest lap point. Bottas 2 seconds quicker than Verstappen last lap, 6.5 seconds.
Stroll still in 4th position, Vettel still in 5th, Albon still right underneath the rear wing of that Scarlet Ferrari as they come through the chicane. Here's Hamilton's radio.
Yeah, so Lewis, we're going to switch it to the soft, so we just want to give ourselves a little bit more margin.
Okay, so as previously mentioned, Hamilton will be going on to the soft tyre.
Is that just in case they grain up at the end of the race and he loses a load of time?
I guess so, and I guess the thinking is he won't lose to Verstappen, but could he lose to Bottas if it went really badly for the last 6 or 7 laps?
It can't go that badly though, can it?
Exactly.
He's going to come out 6 seconds clear of Verstappen. He's then going to pump in fastest lap that'll probably take him 8 seconds clear of Verstappen. Then there'll be 3 laps to go, and he's not going to lose 3 laps, 3 seconds a lap to the end.
6 laps to go, Jenny.
Risky business, though. It seems like a totally unnecessary risk. They can just sit there for the difference of 1 point potentially, because Bottas has got the fastest lap at the moment. It just seems a bit churlish to try, no?
It's a point in the title fight.
Hamilton, yeah, exactly. This is a 2-point swing. If Bottas passes Verstappen, as it stands, they'll be level on points.
The balance is all over the place. I'm trying my best, but I'm struggling so much.
Leclerc saying the balance is all over the place. I'm trying my best, but I'm struggling so much. He's all by himself, really, in 11th position after a miserable run on the soft tyres earlier on. Albon still pressuring Sebastian Vettel. Yeah, Hamilton's got to do this. He's got to make this pit stop. How many times has Hamilton lost titles by a point? I don't have the exact number to answer that, but, you know, 2007 was pretty close. Oh, once, apparently, I'm being told by Andrew Benson. How close was it in 2016? A couple of points, maybe, but...
4 points, I think.
Oh, 4 points. So, you know, every point matters is my point. Lap 66 of 70. And they're sounding it in now. Lando Norris still trying to get that fight away. Bottas now within 5 seconds of Verstappen.
It is going to be tight, that.
Yeah.
A second quicker on the last lap. 19.2 for Verstappen, 18.4 for Bottas on that lap. 4.7 seconds the gap, 5 to go. Still going to be really tight. Verstappen might be able to hang on if he can get his elbows out for the final lap.
I think, you know, without meaning to be too critical of Bottas in a situation where it's Bottas on the attack and Verstappen on the defence, I would give it to Verstappen. Just look at turn 5-4 at Austria last weekend, and if it's only a couple of laps, I think Verstappen can do it. He can't hold off for 10 or 20 laps or whatever it was last week, but for a couple, I think he's got a shot here. Hamilton now is going to come into the pits, surely. The team are ready, and Hamilton does pit now from the mediums to the softs. And to be honest, even if this pit stop goes terribly, terribly, terribly wrong, he would still probably emerge ahead of Verstappen. They could change the tyres 10 times and he'd still emerge in front of Stroll in the top 3. It was actually a bit of a slow stop, 3.6 seconds, but Hamilton now emerges and will go for the fastest lap of the race. It means that he's going to have quite a bit of traffic actually though to try and do this fastest lap.
3 laps to do it though, and he can drop back if he wants and give himself some clear space to the It's the Vettel, Albon, Perez, Ricciardo fight that's just gone through, and Albon's passed Vettel.
So Alex Albon gets up into 5th position then, and the Red Bull driver ahead of the Ferrari. It's been a decent enough race this for Alex Albon. Difficult to compare after starting further back and not getting the kind of rocket start that Verstappen got. Oh, how has Albon done it? Is this a mistake from Vettel? It is. Vettel's just given him that place.
Left front lock up from Vettel at turn 2, round wide. Albon slipped through on the inside. No real pressure there for Vettel. With only a few laps to go, he was looking good, and he's just thrown away 2 points. And he's got Perez for company now.
Yeah, Perez lapping well. Only a tenth of a second quicker actually on that last lap than Vettel, on the last clean lap anyway. Hamilton is on his out lap, about to start a flyer to try and take that fastest lap of the race point away from Valtteri Bottas, who, as they come across the line now to start lap 68 of 70, 3 to go, and Bottas is 2 seconds behind Verstappen. So this is going to be so touch and go, so touch and go.
He's just done the fastest lap of the race, and Verstappen may well have a lot of traffic to deal with on the final lap as well. He's now going to come up to Ricciardo and Vettel, Perez, Albon. They might just be fast enough and far enough away to not be caught in the last 3 laps. It's going to be close.
They might just save him, presumably, if Verstappen is able to get DRS off some of them.
Could be helpful, could be a hindrance. It completely depends where he catches them, really. Bottas with the fastest lap on the last lap, gap 1.5 seconds. He's going to have to get elbows out, definitely, for at least 1 lap, maybe 2.
Lap 68 of 70 at the climax to a anticlimactic Hungarian Grand Prix. Started in wet, but pretty soon it was dry, and that kind of removed all of the strategical disparity from the front of the grid. Hamilton's getting bulked here, up behind one of the racing points. It's Sergio Perez, and as a result, he might not set the fastest lap of the race. No, I think he's going to anyway. Hamilton out of the final corner, despite following the racing point for most of the end of that lap. He still sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix and gains a point. Starts the penultimate lap of the race now. How close is Bottas? He's outside of DRS. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it. If I had to put my money somewhere now, I'm saying it's a no.
1 second behind. He's going to have one chance down to turn 1, which is the big braking corner. And if not, it'll go side by side to turn 2, where we've seen many overtakes this afternoon. He's got 1 lap to do it. 1 lap wasn't enough last week in the Styrian Grand Prix. Verstappen is aggressive. He's going to fight so hard to keep Bottas behind. I think I'm probably with you now.
I did say last week on the Checker Flag podcast, which you can download later on this evening, that I feel like the driver who gets beaten by Verstappen the most over the course of the season will be the driver that doesn't win the championship. And that is the kind of scenario we're in here, because if Bottas gets past, then they're going to be there's going to be a 3-point swing back towards Hamilton. But if he finishes behind, Hamilton is going to have a bigger margin at the front of the championship after winning this Grand Prix. And this is basically the final chance for Bottas. He's got the DRS. If he's close enough, he looks like he is going to be close enough. Is there traffic in front? There isn't, so I don't think Verstappen will quite have it. It's now or never for Valtteri Bottas on the run down into turn 1. He's got the DRS open. How committed does the Finn feel like being into the first corner? Not very is the answer there. And now down into turn 2. No, he's not going to do it. Verstappen's going to hold on to this second place for my money.
Last chance, in theory, gone. Bottas was a little bit understeery through turn 1, which meant he didn't get a good run into turn 2 either. The only thing is, they have got a load of cars that Verstappen may have to pass on this final lap.
Get those cars out of the way.
Get those cars out of the way, please, says Max Verstappen. But I think even if he gets bulked here, I don't think Bottas is going to make a dive anywhere, really. Final lap of the race. Hamilton out in front, and he's going to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on the final lap by the looks of things. They're coming up towards the right-hander of turn 11 now. Maybe Bottas into 12, but he's not going to be close enough here. Through the right-hander at the final corner at turn 14 comes Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be A victory in Hungary again for Hamilton, and now he moves to the top of the championship with a commanding, comfortable win. Max Verstappen is going to finish in second place, just ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Impressive drive from Verstappen to split the Mercedes after crashing out on his way to the grid. He's had a good drive. Bottas in third. There'll be disappointment at Mercedes that Bottas could only manage third place. Lance Stroll is going to finish in fourth, but that'll be in about half a minute, so let's reflect on Hamilton first. Good drive.
Great drive, fastest lap on the last lap by over a second as well. Classic Lewis Hamilton performance, untroubled all the way through. Never under any pressure really after he had 2 laps to build a 6-second lead. Deserved win.
Get in there, Lewis. Absolute masterclass, mate. What a spot-on effort. So yeah, fastest lap and the win. Beautiful work there.
Fantastic effort this weekend, guys. I'm so proud of you all. I'm so happy with today. Thanks so much.
He's had that interference on his radio the whole race. That would be driving me nuts if I was Peter Bonington. Anyway, Verstappen finishing in second, Bottas third, Stroll across the line now to finish in fourth position. Alex Albon, he hasn't finished still. Here he comes now. Albon finishes fifth, second and fifth for the Red Bull team. Vettel in sixth, Perez seventh, eighth Ricciardo, Kevin Magnussen ninth place in the Haas. Great job there. Sainz in 10th.
Yes, guys, what a result, what a result. I want to say a big thank you to the mechanics because they saved the day. You guys are legends. Thank you so much.
They certainly did save the day, the mechanics at Red Bull, for fixing Verstappen's car. And actually that's a second place after qualifying yesterday. That is really, really strong as Lewis Hamilton, for some reason, drives past the massive image of Robert Perez, giving him a thumbs up, you know. There you go, Formula One sometimes, eh? But Verstappen, starting in 7th, he didn't look like he had the pace to fight the Racing Points or the Ferraris, but he's finished in second place.
Great drive, really great drive. From 7th on the grid, super job for Verstappen. Maybe my driver of the race, my men of the race are those mechanics, because how they managed to get that car that was significantly damaged on the way to the grid, get that turned around, get it fired up, and then get it to finish ahead of one of the Mercedes that started on the front row. Brilliant job all round from the Red Bull team.
Hamilton returns to Parc Fermé now, takes off his gloves, and then hauls himself up out of the cockpit. In a couple of moments' time, his advantage now over Bottas. See, this is how big the swing is. If Bottas had got past Verstappen and had the fastest lap of the race, then they would be level on points at the top of the championship. Bottas didn't get past. Hamilton took fastest lap, so now the gap is 5 points in Hamilton's favour. Obviously not absolutely huge, but 5 points for kind of no real difference. You know, one positional difference is very, very important for Hamilton as he now hauls himself out of the cockpit of his Mercedes. Max Verstappen hugging all of his engineers and mechanics. Hamilton celebrates to the applause of the Mercedes team. Verstappen embracing all of his mechanics down there. Hamilton not embracing them, elbow bumping them all. He had removed his helmet, to be fair, and Verstappen had not. And Hamilton ties his hair up at the back of his head. Haven't seen anything yet of Valtteri Bottas, how he's going to be feeling after that Grand Prix. Can't quite make out that race from Bottas. Obviously jumped the start, which seems to be allowed these days. Dropped back through the order, came back through to third.